Chapter 5 The Gathering Storm. The morning air was thick with an uneasy stillness as Taylor stood at the mouth of the cave, staring out into the alien landscape. The serene beauty that had once captivated him now seemed to cloak an impending doom. He had felt it first, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a trembling beneath his feet that could have easily been mistaken for the planet's natural rhythms. But the signs were growing more apparent. The once clear skies were now streaked with ominous clouds, swirling in unnatural patterns. A faint hum of energy seemed to pulse through the air, and Taylor couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, waiting. His alien allies had returned and noticed it as well. They had gathered in a semicircle around him, their expressions mirroring the tension that gripped his own heart. The creatures, who had once been wary of him, now looked to him with a mixture of trust and apprehension. It was clear that the bond they had formed was more than a simple alliance. It was a shared understanding that their fates were intertwined. "We don't have much time," Taylor began, his voice steady despite the anxiety gnawing at his insides. "We need to prepare. Whatever's coming, it's not just going to affect this planet. If we don't stop it here, Earth could be next." The aliens responded with a series of harmonious sounds, their equivalent of a nod. Together, they began to outline a strategy. They spoke of stockpiling resources, fortifying their positions, and utilizing every bit of knowledge and technology at their disposal. Taylor listened carefully, his mind racing with possibilities. The alien technology they had discovered was beyond anything he had ever seen, yet it was still just as foreign to him. But he knew that it may be their only chance. As the day wore on, Taylor and his allies worked tirelessly, gathering materials from the surrounding area and testing the limits of the ancient devices they had found. The air was filled with a sense of urgency, every moment bringing them closer to the inevitable confrontation. Taylor couldn't help but think of Earth, of the people he had left behind, unaware of the storm that was gathering light years away. The thought fueled his determination. He would not let this threat reach his home. Taylor knew they needed more than just the resources at hand. The enemy they were preparing for was powerful, and if they stood any chance of survival, they needed allies, strong ones. With a heavy heart, he realized that meant venturing out once more into the unknown, seeking out other alien species on this planet that could potentially aid them. The decision was met with mixed reactions. Some of his current allies were wary of the other inhabitants of the planet, knowing that many were hostile or simply indifferent to their plight. But Taylor knew that diplomacy was their best option. He had learned to navigate the complexities of alien cultures on this planet, and he hoped that those skills would serve him well now. His journey took him across the planet's diverse landscapes. From the crystal forests to the mist-covered valleys, each step fraught with danger and uncertainty. He encountered species that were unlike anything he had seen before, some towering and fearsome, others small and elusive. Yet with each encounter, he approached with a blend of caution and respect, offering gestures of peace and communication. It was not easy. Many of the beings he approached responded with hostility, their distrust of outsiders evident in their every move. But Taylor persisted, using the knowledge he had gained from his previous interactions to bridge the gap between their worlds. He offered them the same promise he had made to his current allies: a chance at survival, a chance to fight against the greater threat that loomed over them all. Gradually, he began to see results. A few of the alien species showed signs of curiosity, their initial aggression softening as they realized Taylor meant no harm. He shared with them the story of his journey, the ancient civilization they had uncovered, and the impending disaster that threatened not just his world, but theirs as well. It was a hard-won victory, but eventually, some of the aliens agreed to join forces with him. The return to the encampment with new allies in tow was a triumph, albeit a cautious one. There were still tensions, still distrust, but Taylor could see the flicker of hope in his allies' eyes. The combined strength of these diverse beings might just be enough to tip the scales in their favor. Back at the encampment, the newly formed alliance wasted no time in putting their combined knowledge to use. The ancient technology they had discovered was a marvel, yet much of it remained a mystery. Taylor spent hours working alongside the most knowledgeable of the alien engineers, deciphering the purpose of each device, learning how they could be adapted for their defense. It was a race against time. The seismic tremors were growing stronger, the sky darker with each passing day. Taylor could feel the tension in the air, a collective anticipation that something was about to break. They had uncovered devices capable of manipulating energy fields, creating barriers, and even weapons that harnessed the planet's unique energies. But these marvels were complex, their use requiring precision and an understanding that Taylor feared they did not yet fully possess. Nevertheless, they pressed on. Taylor worked tirelessly, driven by the knowledge that failure was not an option. They built energy shields around their encampments, tested weapons that could potentially repel the invaders, and devised strategies that utilized the planet's natural defenses. The ancient civilization had left behind powerful tools, and Taylor was determined to wield them to protect his newfound allies and the world he now called home. As the defenses took shape, Taylor allowed himself a moment of reflection. He stood on a ridge overlooking the encampment, watching as the aliens worked together in a way that would have seemed impossible just days before. Despite the odds, they had come together, united by a common cause. It was a sight that filled him with a renewed sense of purpose. The night before the anticipated attack, a heavy silence hung over the encampment. The preparations were complete. There was nothing left to do but wait. Taylor found himself alone, sitting by a small fire, the flickering flames casting long shadows on the ground. The weight of responsibility bore down on him. So much had been sacrificed already, and so much more could still be lost. His thoughts wandered back to Earth, to the life he had once known. It felt like a distant memory, a dream from another time. Here, on this alien planet, he had found a new purpose, a new fight. But the uncertainty of what lay ahead gnawed at him. Would they survive the coming storm? Would he ever see Earth again? The fire crackled softly, a stark contrast to the turmoil within him. Taylor knew that the true test was yet to come, and he wondered if he was truly prepared for it. The faces of the allies he had gathered came to mind, their trust in him unwavering despite the odds. He owed it to them to see this through, to stand strong even in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Taylor stood and took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. He walked through the encampment, offering words of encouragement to the tired but determined faces of those who had come to trust him. Their resolve bolstered his own, and by the time the sun was fully risen, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The attack came without warning. One moment, the day was calm, the sun filtering through the clouds. The next, the ground shook violently, and the air was filled with a deafening roar. Taylor barely had time to react before the first wave of enemy forces descended upon them from nowhere. It was chaos. The enemy was unlike anything they had faced before. Massive, coordinated, and relentless. They moved with a terrifying efficiency, striking at the heart of the encampment with a ferocity that took even the most seasoned warriors by surprise. Taylor was thrust into the thick of the battle, his instincts taking over as he fought to rally his allies. The defenses they had worked so hard to construct were put to the test, and for a moment, it seemed as though they might hold. The energy shields flickered to life, repelling the first wave of attackers, and the alien weapons unleashed devastating blasts of power that tore through the enemy ranks. But the respite was short-lived. The enemy adapted quickly, their attacks becoming more focused, more intense. Taylor could see the strain on his allies' faces as they struggled to hold the line. The enemy forces seemed endless, their numbers overwhelming. Taylor fought with everything he had, his mind racing as he tried to find a way to turn the tide. But even as he ordered counterattacks and redirected defenses, he knew that they were being pushed to their limits. The enemy was too strong, too too determined. Just as hope began to waver, a massive explosion rocked the battlefield, sending shockwaves through the ranks of both friend and foe. Taylor looked up to see one of the ancient devices they had activated, its power surging beyond control. The explosion created a temporary break in the enemy's advance, giving them a precision moment to regroup. But the victory was short-lived. The enemy regrouped quickly, launching a renewed assault that pushed them back to the brink. Taylor knew they couldn't hold out much longer. The realization hit him like a cold wave. This was only the beginning.